Okay, match 2. Let's see how this one went. Yeah, in pace this hand. It's not perfect. We don't have no turn 1 play, but we're on the play, so maybe it all ends up being fine in the end. I mean, we've got interaction, we've got Stoneforge Mystic. There's a lot to like about this hand, and Ragavan is signaling some type of mono red, red deck wins type strategy. But could be a number of things. So it could be Jun with their 1 of Basic Mountain. I think we just play. We play Stoneforge Mystic. In retrospect, probably Charming Prince was the better play, but I guess we wanted to set up for a Stoneforge Mystic. But okay, here's actually where I think. Actually, so I'm recording this after I did the post-league commentary, and so this is actually the spot where arguably I should have got the Mortarpod, and I think this actually was a mistake. I think I should have got Mortarpod, but Sword of Fire and Ice is so sweet that it's hard to fault me necessarily, and that could even turn out to be anyway. Yeah, but in retrospect, I should have got Mortarpod because it was very obvious that they were going to kill my Stoneforge Mystic. And in the back of my head, that's probably why I played it over Charming Prince. Alas, it didn't happen. Still, there's a lot to like. We've got Skyclave Apparition, 2 of them in fact. So I think that's obviously the play. We lead off on Ghost Quarter just for the just because we want to subtly disguise that we can Field Rune their Fire Islet, which may be a play we want to have available to us. Maybe, I mean, generally we don't want to put ourselves back on mana to speculatively cut them off of a card draw. Morphos, what we're worried about here is Storming Entity, and that comes to pass. That is an issue. Well, Ragavan, at least we got a Skyclave for that one. So this looks like Izzet Prowess, but with trying Ragavan. Kind of like how we're trying Ragavan and Obosh Prowess. I think this is a lock, basically, for Obosh Prowess. Izzet Prowess, honestly, like, I don't know that they really need to accelerate their mana as much as we do. They're way more low to the ground than Obosh Prowess. They don't have a ton of 3-drops. This is a sweet, sweet card, but that new Dragon card that surveils every time you cast a non-creature spell and then becomes a 3/3 flying. I've faced Izzet Prowess with that card, and I think that card actually might be the real good boosting card. I mean, maybe they got their Ragavans. Maybe they're also, playing Obosh Prowess a bit too on the side. Maybe this is like the main thing they play, and they also play a little Obosh Prowess, so maybe they wanted to just get these and add these to this collection, and maybe they're like, hey, let's try it out in this deck. And maybe, I mean, look, honestly, I'm respecting this card a lot more than I would respect the Dragon Channeler, so this very well might be better even in Izzet Prowess. It's possible. This card is nutso. Solitude. This is a game changer. Obviously, so the Skyclave. Huh. Interesting. It's weird. In retrospect, I'm not sure why I didn't Skyclave the Ragavan. Gotta be honest. Anyway. Yeah, so we play the Aether Vial. I guess for some reason I think maybe this can be a good blocker, even though there's double Lava Dart. Yeah, folks, actually, even as I'm replaying this, I'm not actually 100% sure why I didn't play Skyclave. I mean, I could maybe just wait one more turn for Sword. I don't want to get nailed with Ragavan and have them get some card advantage off of it. Anyway, as it appears like they're using all their mana anyway, so it's very unlikely that they get card advantage. But this was foreseeable, that they kill my Skyclave. They even get a token. We're holding on to Solitude just because we want them to blow all their spells. We don't want them to, like, well, I don't know, maybe they gained a little extra life unnecessarily. But I'm still okay to wait. Also, you just don't want them to, like, Vapor Snag their own Storming back to hand, so there's something to be said about waiting for them to tap out. Yeah, so basically I ditched the Charming Prince, and I kill the Storming. Yeah, actually, trying to remember back to this match, because thankfully I'm only recording it like the following morning after I played this match. I kind of remember like not even remembering that I had a Skyclave in my hand. It's hard to explain, but it just seems like that would have been the better play on the Ragavan. Anyway, so they did filter a Thalia to the bottom, so you know that does result in us drawing a plains, and that does unlock this this possibility of playing Skyclave on the Ragavan and then equipping with Sword. We took an extra 2 damage, and they got an extra treasure token. Now, of course, they can double Lava Dart, which they do, and that's definitely right on them to do. But we took an extra 2 damage, and we gave them an extra treasure token, which is very relevant when they're this low on lands. So, you know. And now we're sweating a little bit. This is definitely a bit problematic, but a good top deck with a sort of Fire and Ice in play can definitely change our fortune. And thankfully, yes, there it is. And I'm still new to this deck, and there's really no excuse, because I mean, I'm familiar with Merfolk, so something's definitely going on with me. I'm definitely I'm probably distracted by something. Maybe I'm getting text or something, because there's really no reason for me not to just file this and play. Because then I could have just played the Batterskull. Yeah. But I do get to equip the Sword of Fire and Ice. That's a side benefit. And maybe that's even better, to be honest. But it's on. I think filing and playing the Batterskull still probably was better. But this does make me completely immune to removal, whereas Batterskull, like if they sided in Flame Slash, that's probably just GG. So, yeah. Yep. Actually, maybe it's not GG, because to be honest, we still could have equipped the Batterskull if they would have Flame Slashed it. Now, overall, that was the better play. But as we can see, we're still in a pretty good spot, because we can attack, we can zap the Ragavan, and we do kind of need to draw an answer to the Sprite Dragon, otherwise that's just going to straight kill us. And ask and ye shall receive. And once again, I'm just forgetting about Aether Vial. Like, as we can see, we go for this play. I don't know what's going through my head, and I apologize, because this is kind of unacceptably bad play from my part. There's just no excuse. Now, what I don't understand, though, is why the opponent decides to double down and, you know, join in the misplay bandwagon, because there's literally no reason for them to do this before the Flickerwhisp ability resolves. They might as well just wait for this to return it in a turn and then do it, and then it comes back as a 1/1, and then it becomes a 2/2. So I cannot explain why they did that. Maybe they're just looking at us playing that as opposed to filing in, and they're like, I want to misplay too. I mean, you know, I mean, I know this doesn't make for the best viewing experience, unfortunately, that both of us are kind of misplaying. So, you know, but that being said, like, I don't know, that's a little odd, but I mean, we still got a Sword of Fire and Ice. I mean, if they had like an instant, like 1 instant or sorcery in their hand, then that was a major misplay. Honestly, that might have been a bigger misplay than my Batterskull and, you know, not keeping up Aether Vial. Although, actually, keeping up Aether Vial, you gotta imagine they probably would have gone for it and then Lava Darted. And then, you know, and then we could Violin Flickerwhisp, and then we have a Thraben Inspector. We could have used the 3 mana to Thraben Inspector, then crack the Clue token. So we, you know, it could have been ahead that way. So without, anyway. But needless to say, they did not capitalize on our misplay of playing out the Flickerwhisp, because again, if they had waited until end of turn, I mean, if they, yeah, until after the Flickerwhisp came back into play, or rather their Sprite Dragon, came back into play, then Lava Darted, it would have been a 2/2. And then if they drew any other instant or sorcery, it's out of Sword of Fire and Ice range. But again, we could have played around that by just playing Flickerwhisp off of Aether Vial when they attack. At least we would have taken less damage. I mean, I suppose they could have been patient with the Lava Dart, so they could have played around us playing around it. But also, we would have been gaining more life and been out of the danger zone if we would have had the Batterskull in play. So, anyway, all this back and forth about like both of us misplaying. Let's just get to the rest of the games. Bottom line is that I'm not necessarily sure that the Izzet Prowess is a good matchup per se, but it does seem like a winnable matchup, and that's good to know. And obviously, you can only deduce so much from just one game, because this is literally our first match against Izzet Prowess, playing Taxes. Curious to know what you all think, but this matchup seems like, especially with the sideboard path to Exiles, where we become much more interactive, and we're already fairly interactive with Solitude and Skyclave Apparition in the main deck. So, you know, it feels like we're interactive enough that we've got a chance. I think I think we're the control. I think once definitely once the game gets going, our hard cast Solitudes or Batterskulls or Kaldras or you know, I think like we have a better top end once we get going. So you know, but they can of course rush us down. Anyway, good stuff. I don't necessarily know what I would have replaced with it, but I do muse actually in this matchup how much better. Actually, I did. Oh, sorry, I forgot to go over the sideboarding. Yeah, I guess actually, one thing I kind of regret is I'm like maybe I should have brought an Archon because this does cut them off of playing double spells, so it does sometimes like make their Manamorphose cards very awkward. I cannot explain fully why I have Path to Exile. You know what? I gotta be honest. I think what was going on during this game, if I remember correctly, was I was getting a lot of like messages and stuff, and like a lot of emails and things like that for whatever reason. And it was also a little bit later, so I think I was like checking stuff, and maybe I just didn't sideboard for some reason. Yeah, I mean definitely not like at my best. Hey, at least we still won despite this problem. But yeah, anyway, so I guess I'm going over the sideboarding after the match is already over. But as you can see, I didn't really side anything in. I think if we did sideboard, we would have probably taken out maybe the Thraben Inspectors for Path to Exile. I think that's a fairly obvious swap. And then I think I probably would have taken out the Aven Mindscensors for the Archons. But I do start to muse actually at the end, even though apparently we didn't sideboard. I start to muse, man, if we had Eidolon of Rhetoric, maybe that'd be the real deal in this matchup, because they don't seem to be playing Flame Slash. I know some of them do in the sideboard, I guess, but if they don't have exactly Flame Slash, all their Wild Slashes, Lightning Bolts, and all of that just aren't gonna touch Eidolon of Rhetoric. Their mutagenic, I mean their whole deck kind of really slows down to a halt. Their Manamorphose becomes very awkward. That basically just draws a card and they can't do anything else their turn, and then they have to try to play the instant the next turn to keep playing all their spells. Also mutagenic growth, like they can just play that on the turn. They can't it just prevents them from going really nuts. So anyway, let's go to the next games. But I think this is the first match where I start to think, maybe Eidolon of Rhetoric as opposed to this. Eidolon of Rhetoric is 3 mana for a 1/4 enchantment creature. Same effect, each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. It doesn't have the non-basic lands enter the battlefield tapped, which a lot of non-basic lands do anyway, so it doesn't, it's not to be said, sometimes this effect does something, but a good chunk of the time those lands come into play tapped anyway. It also doesn't have flying. That's kind of what I think. I see this card more often in Taxes, probably because the flying is relevant, but honestly I think the 4 toughness does more, especially when we don't actually have a pro-red creature in the sideboard. Yeah, I'm on a conceptual level, I definitely start to think there's a lot to like about Eidolon of Rhetoric, because it kind of doubles both as a storm / prowess kind of multi-spell hate type card, and as kind of like burn hate because it's actually more vulnerable. It's more like, it doesn't just immediately die to Searing Blaze, and also it's better against prowess because it doesn't just immediately die to Lightning Bolt, and it's also just probably better against most red-based decks, period. Even if the taxing effect isn't that good, sometimes we just want to side in maybe a 4 toughness creature, just so we have a little bit more of a resilient body. It's a better blocker too, and I can see how. Well, yeah, like honestly, I think our main deck is aggressive enough. I'm kind of more maybe interested in having like a better blocker in the sideboard. So anyway, this is definitely where I start to think Eidolon of Rhetoric might be the way to go over Archon. So anyway, let's go to the next matches and let's see. Oh, okay, game 2, and I guess I'm still a little bit out of it because apparently, yeah. So that explains why I didn't sideboard, because that was game 1. Okay, sorry folks. Whatever. I mean, I still think my analysis in that take was good enough that, and I don't know, you get to see kind of a. But definitely there was a ton of misplays there, so I still think I was distracted, but not so distracted that I didn't sideboard, because I was thinking like, wow, that's a little egregious to just not sideboard at all. And I don't remember that, but anyway. So yeah, apparently this is that was game 1. I guess that explains that. For some reason, that was giving me game 2 vibes from my memory, but even the next day, sometimes your memory is a little bit off. Yeah, so I think we did sideboard basically the way we said we would sideboard. We took out the Thraben Inspectors for Path to Exile, and we took out Aven Mindscensor for Archon. So there you go. Because I kind of remember, like, that's how I would sideboard, and it turns out that is how we sideboarded. So, alright. Let's, yeah. Yeah, so, like, I think the rest of these cards are where it's at as far as being better in this matchup. Thalia definitely does a lot of work against attacks as Shell. They can probably just Lava Dart or whatever, but at least it taxes them once before doing so. I do start to think that maybe there is something to be said about Thraben Inspector, because sometimes maybe we just want a blocker for Ragavan, and there's nothing as sweet as forcing them to Lightning Bolt or Wild Slash a Thraben Inspector. That's literally like, we like it when they do that, because it's such a, when they have to use a Precious Burn spell on a dinky creature that already left a clue token behind, instead of like one of our better cards like Thalia, we're always happy. So I'm starting to think, yeah, maybe Thraben Inspector somehow, maybe Thraben Inspector instead of Thalia even, I don't know. So at least on the draw, I start to think, at least we can path, and it doesn't look like they necessarily have much else they can do, so we're a little bit worried that they might just drop another Ragavan. Other than that, yeah, they drop another Ragavan. Not, and see, this folks, by the way, is why in this being a legend, it's just not as much of an issue as you might think. Because we had to respect this. I don't think they should have Seared Visage first, because what if, for example, we revealed like another Charming Prince, or a Stoneforge Mystic is okay, but they might not even want to play that because it's just a Squire for them. They don't have any equipment. Yeah, anyway, what if they revealed like a Charming Prince, or a Thalia, which they might even want to play because they don't want the tax. But if they revealed a creature worth playing from us, then, you know. And what did they reveal? Oh, they didn't actually connect. Yeah, but I wouldn't have let off on Serum Visions if I were them. Nonetheless, we still had to respect it, even though they weren't exactly holding up the mana to get card advantage. We could not let them get card advantage. The token is pretty good too, but first we couldn't let them get card advantage. But second, that treasure token is way better than. Yeah, that treasure token really helps. Just free extra mana. So, you know, Thalia, obviously they do have a removal spell for it, but at least they had to pay 2. We take 4. This is not to be envied. Yeah, question, do they play Aether Vial? Apparently not, so that means they probably have a removal spell in hand. Otherwise, like, oh, I guess they can just crack this, so maybe not. Anyway, we play Archon because, I mean, why not? Yeah, and I think this is where we really start to think, yeah, I kind of wish this was Eidolon or Rhetoric, because, yep, sure enough, another Lightning Bolt. If this was Eidolon or Rhetoric, we'd have a solid blocker. And yeah, it would end up dying, but we'd end up blocking the Ragavan, so yeah. Oh, and here they do get a Stoneforge Mystic, but they just decide it's not worth it, it's just a Squire. What I don't understand is why didn't they crack the Fire Idol in the turn? I mean, they might as well just play the Aether Vial now, if they're not, if they weren't planning to crack the Fire Idol. That's what I was thinking looking back at this. Anyway. Yeah, with Flickerwhisp, and I think we just go after a treasure token, which they can just use to crack Fire Outlet, which honestly I should have done last turn anyway, so, yeah, whatever. I don't think there was a better play available here unless I'm missing something. So they bolt again, and definitely things are kind of getting dicey for us. Yeah, they reveal Spiral Buff Canal, so they can play it. Put another card to their hand. Basically 2 mana, draw 2 cards, and filter 1 card deep. Put that to the bottom. 3 cards deep, you know. But like, yeah, be able to filter 1 card in hand, 1 card in play. Pretty good. That's actually just what the Doctor ordered. I think other than Batterskull, which if they have Vapor Snag, this is way better. But yeah, this and Batterskull, basically the 2. And, you know, Batterskull's only a 1 of, so like this is essentially the best possible card. This is basically the best possible card I could have hoped to draw. Can't really complain there. But obviously this is one advantage to Solitude over Path to Exile. This is actually a super powerful late game. Yeah. You know, I'm thinking, like, we have kind of a sort of guaranteed trade if this is allowed to live with Ragavan. But you know, what I'm thinking is literally if they have any burn spell, so unless they're on Opt, or Manamorphose, you know, not on main phase, and almost always playing Manamorphose in main phase is where you want to be. But yeah, other than some of their blue cantrip type effects, which you'd think they would have played before combat, so that they could keep churning and growing the Swift Spear more. We were on 0 cards, and then we just, you know, I guess we were on 1 card, and then we played out a mountain. We weren't necessarily, I wouldn't blame the opponent for not expecting this. So at first I was thinking I can trade with the Ragavan, and avoid getting blown out by like double Opt or Opta Manamorphose. But, you know, I just thought to myself, yeah, I just think you know, they don't always do this, but I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to take the risk that if they had those cards, they would have played those on the main phase. If they had Lava Dart, and if they have Lava Dart, Lightning Bolt, or Wild Slash, then it doesn't make a difference. They could just clear this, and it's probably worse if they connect with this card. Even though, yeah. Anyway, perhaps you could say that maybe this wasn't the right call, but I did actually think this out, and I just thought, yeah, I'll take this line. I'll just take the Ragavan. I gotta be honest, I was not expecting to just straight trade, but that puts us in a way better position. Yeah, I was expecting they'd probably at least play 1 Opt or something. Yeah, my thinking was, I'll probably end up trading. I'll trade either way, but this way, at least, if they have exactly 1 removal spell, they don't get to like steal. They don't get to like steal a Charming Prince or something off the top of my library, and a Charming Prince would be so sweet here. And if I remember correctly, that's exactly what happens. So it's like, yeah. So somehow it was weird. Somehow I was just like, it just sucks so much if Charming Prince is on top. They would exile it, then they would be able to play it, and I'm just like, we don't want that, so we just have to get that Ragavan. I don't know. Like, I guess I was just thinking worst case scenarios, and it turns out the potential worst case scenario ended up becoming now, if they didn't have the treasure token untapped, which they wouldn't have if they would have correctly end of turn used this to crack the Fire Outlet 1 turn earlier, and then I would have Flickerwhisp the remaining treasure token. But yeah, then we probably could have attacked, although then Mutagenic Growth would have blown us out, so maybe we still end up in a better position. But certainly with an untapped treasure token, I'm not going to expose attacking and, you know, getting clever. Even if they trade, that's not what I want. What I want to do is I want to flicker it. There is certainly a possibility that they might Wild Slash or Lightning Bolt, or even Lava Dart Flashback in response, so I was worried about that. But yeah, I just couldn't afford like a Mutagenic Growth or something, so I play it safe. I exile the Solitude. Again, I cannot fully explain why I'm inexplicably just forgetting that I have Aether Vial here. Although here there's literally nothing better I can do with the mana. Actually, it's not entirely true. What I do realize is maybe I can take them off of blue mana, because they do actually only play so many blue sources. They only play basic mountains. Yeah, so I think I do kind of notice, why am I forgetting again to use Aether Vial? Like, then I could at least hit both of their lands. Yeah, but they end up drawing a Scalding Turn anyway, so as it turns out, probably it's better that I held on to Ghost Quarter. But it's still a misplay, because I think even though it would have been worse for us, I think it was the correct play to Violin the Charming Prince and then Ghost Quarter and Field of Ruin to try to take them off of blue, because again, they only play mountains. We had the ability to, not take them off, but make the only blue card a treasure token. And once again, we have an Archon, which is probably would have been better as a Eidolon. We deal with the Charming Prince, not the worst possible thing that could happen. And finally, we remember Aether Vial. We're like, okay, we remember Aether Vial. Okay, so they dash the monkey. I don't know why, but I respond to this with Archon. I should probably wait till they attack. That's probably the best. That's actually the best. I can't fully explain why I do this. I guess because I'm worried that they are going to follow up with a Storming Entity or something. Yeah, that's what it is. I don't want them to cast any more spell, whatever it is, whether it's Manamorphose or whether it's Serum Business or whatever. Like, my plan was basically respond to their first spell with Archon, and there's definitely, this is not clearly a misplay, actually. I'm still probably waiting to ambush, because it was higher upside. They're not expecting Archon, so they probably would have got blown out. But this way, if they were waiting on Manamorphose, sure, if they knew we had Archon, they could just play it right there. But then if they had any sorcery speed thing, they couldn't play it. once it resolved. That was just my thinking. They scoop anyway. I'm not sure why they need to scoop, because they're still at like 20 life. So sometimes we see this, the opponent scoops. I guess they're disheartened by the Solitude continuously attacking and gaining life, but yeah, there's still no excuse for scooping, I think, here at 20 some life, but yeah, we probably should have tried to ambush the Ragavan. But again, it's closer than you might think, because if we do this in response to the spell, we're virtually guaranteed, because I highly doubt they... Although if somebody inexplicably just launches Aether Vial, that's another advantage. Yeah, if they just launch Aether Vial after you cast a spell, if you're kind of like attuned to taxes, because this has happened to us, in retrospect, you're probably like, yeah, I probably should have suspected Archon. So, yeah, I wouldn't have, if I were them, I wouldn't have suspected Archon if I would have tapped it in response to their attack, because that could have been any number of creatures. Anywho, I think Eidolon or Rhetoric would definitely be a lot better in this matchup. That's when I first started thinking, yeah, I'd probably prefer if this was Eidolon or Rhetoric, even though we won. See, that's the thing, like, we don't try to just be quote-unquote results-oriented. I think it still stands to reason that Eidolon would have been a lot better, even though we won. We can't just be like, oh, we won, therefore this is better. And this is kind of an example of where that seed is planted, and we are thinking about that card as a possible upgrade. So, anyway, now let's go to the next match as for real, because this is actually game 2. All right,